Carrie Morgan was Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice.
Cassie for 17 years, but things went sour after she alleged that Diddy beat her with a wooden coat hanger and she signed an NDA.
A single moment in court shattered Diddy's composure completely. Up until then, he had maintained a calm and controlled demeanor, but that all changed when Carrie Morgan, Cass's best friend, took the stand. As she began to speak, the courtroom fell silent. Her testimony carried a weight that was impossible to ignore. Carrie had been by Cass's side through some of the darkest times, and her words painted a raw, intimate picture of what Cassie had endured. Diddy's expression shifted almost instantly. What started as a subtle tension in his jaw quickly escalated. He fidgeted, leaned forward, and his eyes betrayed a mix of disbelief and fury. Those who knew him well said they had never seen him like this, completely unraveling in public view. It wasn't just what Carrie said, but how confidently and emotionally she said it. Her presence in court struck a nerve, exposing truths Diddy had long tried to suppress or deny. In that one moment, with the eyes of the courtroom on him and Carrie's voice echoing in his ears, Diddy lost the control he had worked so hard to maintain.
Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice, the first time in a home Combs was renting in the Hollywood Hills. Morgan testified that, quote, "I saw him push her. I'm pretty sure he hit her." The second time allegedly happened in Jamaica. Morgan says they were in the bar area of a home when, quote, "I heard her screaming." She recalled guttural, terrifying screams. Combs faces the possibility of life in prison if convicted. He's pleaded not guilty and has denied all wrongdoing.
The courtroom buzzed with quiet conversations and the soft rustling of papers as everyone settled in for what many assumed would be just another routine day in court. The atmosphere wasn't exactly tense, but a heaviness lingered in the air, a sense that something significant was about to happen. Diddy sat at his table, composed and leaning back slightly in his chair. His legal team, appearing confident, flipped through notes like they had the entire day under control. Behind the courtroom barriers, the media whispered among themselves, cameras ready to catch even the slightest shift in energy. Then, to everyone's surprise, Carrie Morgan walked in. That's when everything started to change. Carrie wasn't a name most of the public had been focusing on. While she had been mentioned in passing before, few had anticipated the pivotal role she would play. As Cass's best friend, Carrie entered the courtroom looking calm but determined. The prosecution welcomed her warmly, clearly having prepared for this moment, while murmurs spread through Diddy's side. His legal team exchanged uneasy glances. Diddy's gaze followed Carrie intently, his once relaxed posture beginning to stiffen. As Carrie was sworn in, the tone of the room shifted dramatically. Whatever confidence Diddy had shown earlier began to fade. At first, it was subtle. Only those watching him closely could see the cracks forming. He tightened his jaw, leaned forward, clasped his hands together, and narrowed his eyes. Carrie began to speak, and with each sentence, the tension thickened. Witnesses later described the moment as electric, with the entire room transfixed, not just by Carrie's words, but by how visibly shaken Diddy became. Then it happened. Carrie said something. Details from her testimony so explosive and personal, they struck a nerve Diddy couldn't hide. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Diddy slammed his hand on the table, his voice cutting through the stunned silence as he interrupted her. Media reports described him as visibly furious, with one journalist noting it was as if he couldn't hold back another second. Security guards inched forward, clearly ready to intervene. The judge repeatedly called for order, but Diddy was unraveling right there in front of everyone. He pointed at Carrie, shaking his head and muttering angrily to his legal team, his composed image now completely gone. Witnesses described the courtroom as chaotic, silent one moment, and the next, buzzing with unease and alarm. "People were genuinely startled," said one observer. Even Diddy's lawyers appeared caught off guard, scrambling to calm him down. Outside, cameras captured the aftermath during the recess, as reporters scrambled to piece together what had just happened. But the real question hung heavy over the courtroom. What did Carrie Morgan say that shattered Diddy's composure so completely? Whatever it was, her words clearly had the power to shake one of the music industry's most unshakable figures. To understand Diddy's reaction, we need to take a closer look at who Carrie Morgan is, and why her voice matters so much in this case.
Morgan was on the stand. That was Cassie Ventura's former best friend. What did Carrie say happened after that incident?
Cassie Ventura left the Intercontinental Hotel, went back to her apartment, her home, and there was Carrie Morgan waiting. She said immediately she saw the black eye that Ventura had testified Combs gave her after the freak-off got violent, and the whole reason why then the subsequent assault in the hallway happened. And then Carrie Morgan said about a half hour later, Sean Combs starts banging on the door with a hammer. It was not let in, but she said she heard him yelling, finally called some of Combs' staff members to try to get him to leave. Police were called, but Cassie Ventura said, and Carrie Morgan backed this up, that nothing ever came of it because Cassie Ventura refused to say anything about Sean Combs and what happened to her.
Aaron, I have to ask you, because Combs was sitting just feet away from Don Richard and Carrie Morgan in court today. How did he react to seeing them and hearing all of this?
He's been an attentive listener. In some cases, he would shake his head or nod along or consult with his lawyers, scribbling a lot of notes. This was an important part of the testimony because it made a turn, Eva. The jury had heard from Cassie Ventura directly about, in rather explicit terms, a lot of the sex acts. But the prosecution's whole case is that she was coerced into that sex because of the violence, the kind of violence that both Don Richard and Carrie Morgan said they witnessed. Now, the defense says there are other reasons for the violence. Jealousy, drugs, didn't have anything to do with coercing her into sex. But the prosecutors want the jury to hear these accounts to say that Cassie Ventura was not only telling the truth about being beat up, but that she had reason to then go along with Sean Combs.
Carrie Morgan might not be a household name, but in this case, she's become one of the most critical voices. As Cass's best friend, Carrie hasn't just come forward to offer emotional support. She's taken the stand as a key witness, and her testimony has the potential to change everything. That raises some serious questions. What does Carrie know that others don't? What makes her words so impactful that they manage to shake Diddy to his core? These aren't just passing curiosities. They are essential to understanding why this trial has taken such a dramatic and unexpected turn. To grasp the significance of her role, we have to rewind a bit. Carrie Morgan and Cassie go way back, long before the cameras, the courtroom, and the media frenzy. Their friendship has been described as one built on years of trust, shared experiences, and unwavering loyalty. People close to both women have painted Carrie as fiercely protective of Cassie, someone who stood by her through the highs and lows. And that matters. Because if anyone had a front row seat to what went on behind closed doors, it was Carrie. Her proximity to Cassie over the years gives her a unique perspective. Her testimony isn't just another account, it's a first-hand narrative of what Cassie may have endured. But Carrie's credibility doesn't come solely from her friendship. She's been described by those who know her as thoughtful, level-headed, and someone who doesn't speak unless she's certain of her facts. A source close to the case even called her not the type to do drama, which only makes her decision to step into the spotlight more compelling. This wasn't someone forced into the courtroom. Carrie stepped up, fully aware of the weight her voice carries. So what does she actually know? According to reports, Carrie's testimony isn't based on secondhand stories or vague impressions. She claims to have directly witnessed, or been told in real time, about key instances of abuse during Cass's troubled relationship with Diddy. One media outlet called her the piece of the puzzle no one saw coming, underlining just how powerful and unexpected her contribution has been. While the full scope of her claims wasn't public knowledge before her appearance, it became immediately clear she wasn't holding back. Her testimony allegedly included detailed accounts of manipulation, control, and even physical harm, claims that, if substantiated, could significantly shift the trial in Cass's favor. What also makes Carrie stand out is her bravery. Facing someone as powerful and globally influential as Diddy isn't something many people would willingly do, especially not in such a public and high-stakes setting. Legal experts and observers have noted the sheer courage it takes to go up against someone with Diddy's resources and reputation. But Carrie's presence in court doesn't seem motivated by fame or recognition. From everything we've seen, she's there for one reason: to help her friend seek justice, no matter the personal cost. And now, this is where things stand. Carrie Morgan has alluded to details no one else could have known, details that allegedly expose a disturbing pattern of behavior. But the real shock came when she finally revealed those details on the stand. Whatever she said didn't just cause a stir, it sent shock waves through the courtroom. Even Diddy, who had maintained his composure throughout the trial, visibly cracked. The question everyone is now asking: what exactly did Carrie Morgan say that left the room in stunned silence, and did he completely undone?
Mentioned the second witness today, Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. What did Carrie have to say?
So let me tell you, Carrie Morgan is crucial. And she came crucial because she comes off as credible. Because one of the first statements that she made is that she came here because she was compelled to testify. She no longer speaks to Cassie Ventura. They stopped talking in 2018 after this incident having to deal with where she was assaulted by Sean Combs, where Sean Combs grabbed her by the neck and also threw a wooden hanger at her. But also that it led to Cassie giving her $30,000 so she wouldn't say anything about that specific incident. And that was the end of their relationship. She also corroborated 2 of the assaults that took place, having to deal with Cassie in terms of her being drugged and as well as her being punched. So she corroborated a lot of the testimony, but she came off as a neutral witness, and the defense wasn't able to break her as they wanted to.
Carrie Morgan's testimony wasn't just another step in the trial. It was the moment everything flipped. From the second she sat down, the energy in the courtroom shifted. This wasn't just a witness taking the stand. This was the testimony people had been waiting for, or, in Diddy's case, dreading. The buzz outside the courtroom before her appearance confirmed it. Her presence was highly anticipated, and as soon as she began to speak, it became clear why. What Carrie had to say wasn't just shocking, it was devastating. The allegations came out slowly, but with each word, the weight in the room grew heavier. Carrie began by recounting years of behavior she claimed to have witnessed firsthand. She painted a picture of a relationship that was not just toxic, but dangerous. She spoke of control, manipulation, and abuse, allegations that Cassie allegedly endured at the hands of Diddy. What stopped everyone in their tracks, however, were the chilling details she revealed. Incident after incident that left the courtroom in stunned silence. According to Carrie, physical violence wasn't just implied, it was real. She claimed she had seen bruises on Cassie multiple times and recounted specific moments when Diddy's temper exploded with frightening consequences. But the accusations didn't stop at physical abuse. Carrie also described deep psychological manipulation. She said Diddy used his power and influence to isolate Cassie from her loved ones, monitoring her calls and texts, keeping her under strict control. According to Carrie, this wasn't about a rocky relationship or a dramatic breakup. It was something far darker. One of the most jaw-dropping moments came when Carrie described a particular night that left the entire courtroom in stunned silence. While she didn't share every detail, what she revealed was enough to leave an impact. Cassie had allegedly called her in fear, saying Diddy's anger had reached a terrifying level. Carrie claimed she had to physically intervene, a decision she said could have escalated the situation even further if it had gone wrong. The reaction in the courtroom was immediate. Audible gasps rippled through the gallery, and the judge had to pause proceedings to call for order. Diddy's legal team exchanged frantic glances, clearly rattled by the intensity of Carrie's testimony. But it was Diddy himself who showed the most visible reaction. When Carrie directly implicated him in an incident of violence, reportedly saying, * he couldn't be stopped, * that's when Diddy lost control. He muttered something under his breath and slammed his hand on the table so forcefully it echoed throughout the room. Witnesses described the moment as a simmering rage boiling over. The judge had no choice but to call a recess as the courtroom descended into chaos. As shocking as Carrie's statements were, one question now dominated the room. How would Diddy's legal team respond to such explosive allegations? Would they confront the claims head-on or try to discredit her entirely?
And I will say, I think she seemed to say things very matter-of-fact. There were definitely moments where there was a little bit of what I would call sass, which I didn't think was a bad thing. I think she represented herself very well, and I felt as I read what was being said, she seems like a very credible witness. I think this is going to be one that may stick out in the jury's mind because she was subpoenaed to be here. She is speaking in defense of Cassie, but at the same time, she was also very hurt by Cassie.
Yeah.
And the way that it all came out was very honest. So it's definitely an interesting one to go through.
Yeah, I mean, she's giving a perspective that it feels more like, I don't give a crap about any of these people, so I'm going to give it to you straight. I've moved on from all this, but let's go do it. And not really throwing Cassie under the bus anyway, but clearly doing it more honestly. So so she made it clear she was only there because of the subpoena, and she confirmed that she and Cassie, who met on a modeling shoot as teenagers, no longer speak because Ventura's boyfriend ate her. Now, was this Agnofilo? Costco lawyer did end up doing this or not?
Yes, Mark Agnifilo, or as we lovingly call him, the Costco lawyer.
Because it's just funny, there's this buildup of he's finally going to do something during this trial. It was our first chance to see Costco lawyer step up to the stand, Kim, right? So as we go through, let's see how he does, yeah?
Yeah. It was fascinating.
Diddy's legal team wasted no time responding to Carrie Morgan's explosive testimony. The moment court reconvened, they launched into their counteroffensive, clearly determined to regain control of the narrative. From the outset, it was evident they had no intention of taking her claims at face value. Their strategy was straightforward: undermine Carrie's credibility and plant enough doubt to make the jury question the truth of her allegations. This wasn't just about offering an alternative perspective, it was about dismantling her role in the case entirely. The first step in that strategy unfolded during cross-examination. Diddy's lawyers honed in on Carrie's close relationship with Cassie, implying that her testimony was emotionally biased. "Would you say you've always taken Cassie's side, no matter the situation?" one lawyer reportedly asked, suggesting Carrie's loyalty might cloud her judgment. They pushed the idea that her friendship, however sincere, could have influenced her version of events. According to observers in the courtroom, it was a calculated attempt to make the jury see her less as a reliable witness and more as a devoted friend willing to say anything for someone she cared about. But the cross-examination didn't stop at emotional ties. Diddy's legal team began picking apart the timeline of Carrie's allegations. They zeroed in on key moments she had described, asking pointed and sometimes aggressive questions. "Isn't it true that you weren't physically present for all of these incidents?" one attorney pressed, trying to highlight gaps in her first-hand knowledge. The defense was looking for inconsistencies, any deviation or uncertainty that could cast doubt on her entire testimony. Despite the pressure, Carrie remained composed and consistent in her answers. Her calm demeanor under fire seemed to frustrate the defense, prompting them to shift tactics once again. This time, they questioned her motives. Throughout the latter part of the cross-examination, the defense implied that Carrie had something to gain by testifying. At one point, they suggested that personal grievances, rather than a commitment to truth, may have driven her to the witness stand. "Would you describe your relationship with Mr. Combs as positive before this?" one attorney asked, subtly insinuating that Carrie's testimony could be fueled by resentment or a personal vendetta. The implication was clear: maybe Carrie wasn't just a concerned friend, maybe she was part of a broader campaign to damage Diddy's reputation. The exchange between Carrie and the defense grew tense enough that the judge had to intervene more than once. When one of Diddy's lawyers became particularly aggressive in tone, the judge issued a sharp reminder: "This court will not tolerate disrespect toward any witness." Despite the judge's interjections, the defense had made their intentions clear. If Carrie's testimony was going to shake the case, they would fight back with everything they had. Reactions to their approach were mixed. Some courtroom insiders admitted the defense made some headway by probing for inconsistencies and challenging Carrie's objectivity. Others, however, felt that Carrie's steady demeanor and refusal to be rattled may have only strengthened her credibility in the eyes of the jury. One insider summed it up well: "The real test will be whether the jury sees their questions as legitimate or as an attempt to intimidate her." And that's the question now looming over the trial. Will the defense's aggressive push be enough to weaken Carrie's impact? Or will her words, and the evidence she brought, prove too compelling to ignore? The answer may lie in what's coming next: the physical evidence Carrie provided to support her claims. If it holds up, it could change the entire trajectory of this trial.
10 years. But now you haven't spoken with her since 2018. That's true. At the danger of being capital obvious, that's a long time. She's moved on. Objection. Why haven't you spoken with her? She did not support me after Sean assaulted me. I try that line at assault. I don't know what that means. Oh, I think it means I set the line at assault. I don't cross the line of assault or whatever. You reached a settlement with Miss Ventura? The money came from Mr. Combs. So this was after, I believe, she was assaulted by Diddy, that that in order to hush her up, Diddy gave her some money, or they settled it, however it is. That's a pattern that seems to be happening with him throughout the decades. So Agnifilo shows Carrie Morgan photos, then asks, "Do you know if Louise Hayes is a self-help author about self-affirmation?" "Yes." "Why did you send him this with words of encouragement?" "I don't remember sending it." "Okay. I want to show you a few more photos. But first, let's talk about the incident where he put his hands on your neck. Were you and Cassie using any drugs at the time?" No. What did he say? He said, who is she cheating with? You went to an urgent care and not the hospital, right? Like she's saying just right as the answer. But you don't the prosecutors. Oh, but you told the prosecutors it was bloody and you went to the hospital. I don't remember that. Look at this. And so this is material not shown to the jury. I see that I said that. Now in this, I think it's like now in cross-examination. I'm not sure what that means. Okay. I see that I said that. Do you remember Mr. Agnifilo asking you about an incident in LA? Objection, overruled, and he hit her like in Jamaica, arguing. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me go back. So they were doing right here. Agnifilo is Diddy's attorney. That's why I wasn't understanding. So they did the cross. All right. So now this is the prosecutors again asking her questions. They get to come back up. So that's who's asking. That was like, why is Agnifilo asking a question about himself?
Carrie Morgan didn't just show up in court with her story. She came armed with evidence. Her testimony wasn't based on vague claims or shaky recollections. It was backed by tangible proof that sent shockwaves through the courtroom. That's what caught everyone off guard. As powerful as her words were, the evidence she presented pushed the case into uncharted legal territory, making it clear that her role in the trial was far more critical than anyone had initially anticipated. So what kind of evidence did she bring forward? According to insiders, Carrie handed over a combination of text messages, photographs, and even audio recordings that supported her testimony. One set of messages reportedly showed direct communication between Cassie and Carrie during the times when the alleged incidents involving Diddy took place. In these texts, Cassie described abusive moments in real time, reaching out to Carrie in fear and desperation. Lawyers read excerpts from these messages in court, and those present described the content as chilling. One onlooker even noted how the judge seemed visibly uncomfortable, underscoring the seriousness of the allegations. But that wasn't all. Carrie also submitted photos she claims Cassie sent her, allegedly showing bruises and other injuries consistent with the abuse described in court. These images were officially entered into evidence, with one journalist calling them graphic and heartbreaking. The courtroom fell silent as the prosecution presented them, forcing those in attendance to confront the visual reality of what Cassie may have endured. Carrie testified that Cassie would often send her these photos as documentation, pleas for help during a time when she feared retaliation if she tried to leave the relationship. Observers later commented that the combined effect of the texts and images painted a deeply disturbing picture of what had allegedly been happening behind closed doors. And then came the most damning element of all, the recordings. According to reports, Carrie provided audio files that captured arguments between Diddy and Cassie. In one clip played aloud in the courtroom, Diddy could allegedly be heard yelling in a way that aligned with descriptions of his explosive temper. Another recording reportedly included threats, content that visibly unsettled many in the courtroom gallery. While the defense argued that these recordings lacked context and didn't prove anything definitive, the tone alone was enough to leave a lasting impression. Courtroom insiders described the atmosphere as electric and frozen with tension as each piece of evidence was presented. One journalist wrote that the room was so silent during the playback that you could hear the weight of it settle on everyone's shoulders. Even members of the jury seemed shaken, with one observer noting that some jurors appeared visibly disturbed by what they had heard. It became clear that this was no longer a simple he said, she said scenario. Carrie's evidence added a level of credibility that was nearly impossible to dismiss. Her words weren't just accusations, they came with proof that supported nearly every claim. And with that, the balance of power in the trial seemed to shift dramatically. So where does this leave the case? With Carrie Morgan's testimony and the damning evidence she brought forward, the courtroom dynamics have changed. This trial is no longer just about Diddy and Cassie. It's about the courage it takes to stand up to a powerful figure and expose painful truths, no matter the personal risk. Carrie Morgan has pushed this case into unprecedented territory, and what she's already revealed may only be the beginning. As shocking as her revelations have been, it feels like we've only scratched the surface. What happens next could redefine everything we know about this case. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for ongoing updates as this story continues to unfold. Stay tuned, there's still much more ahead.